This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome aboard for our sunrise safari. Do you remember? We are dedicating our first 45 minutes to some kitties all around the world, from South Africa, USA, Australia, and Malaysia. Hello, everyone. My name is Trishala, and I've got Davy on camera this morning. It's a lovely morning. It's about 18 degrees Celsius, or 64 degrees Fahrenheit, and I did have a whole lot of Impala to show you, but they've decided to move behind us. So I, too, am going to move, so that we can at least see the lovely Impala that hang out here on quarantine clearings. That's an area right outside camp. Now, hello, little friends. Here we go. Now, I heard something interesting from James, who's also out this morning here on Djuma, down in South Africa. And there's a road just a further down from here where all those Impala are hanging out, that the road that I'm on intersects, and there are some hyenas coming down the road. He thinks they might end up in this area, so that might be quite exciting. I wonder if they have smelt these little Impala. Now, hyenas do hunt. They're not only scavengers, so maybe they're a little bit interested in this group. I do think that Impala are very, very good at keeping a close eye. There's some of them that have lifted their head up and looking in that direction. And that's what's really nice about being a herd animal. Herd animals, animals that live together, they live together in groups. That means that it can be really safe. While some eat, others can sleep. While some watch out, others can drink. So everyone is safe when they're together. So the problem is when an Impala is by themselves. That can be quite dangerous. Now, lots of the predators, they like this time of day. The sun is just starting to rise, and it's pretty cool. I mentioned the temperature to you earlier, and predators can overheat quite easily. So this time of day is just perfect. It also coincides with the time of day that most animals like to be out and chomping on grass, because the lovely little dewdrops settle on the grass and makes it nice and moist. I wonder if they will get a little bit alert. Well, I'm going to hang around here and see what happens, but I'll send you over to another guide that is out today, but that's at andBeyond's Ngala, and it is Eric's. Let's go over to him to say good morning.
Good morning from andBeyond Ngala. My name is Eric, and behind me, as usual, is Marcel. We are sitting here at a very beautiful lookout point over the Timbavati River. And we've been waiting to see if we can hear some lions calling. So basically just sitting quietly. I think Trish was talking about how this is such a good time of day for lions and leopards to still be active. It's still cool. Something that was quite unique about this morning is there's this dense layer of mist which will probably give those lions a little bit of extra cover. So if they haven't been successful throughout the morning, or throughout the evening at least, then hopefully they'll try and begin to hunt through the riverbed. We haven't heard anything yet. The only thing that we have been hearing is a Verreaux's eagle owl calling, and Marcel and I for a very long time thought that that bird on that dead tree was a Verreaux's eagle owl, and we thought, oh, that's such an amazing view. You don't get to see it out in the open like this for a long time. And then it started to wake up and it picked up its head and it revealed itself to be a vulture. So we got a little bit disappointed there. But I think from here on out, we're actually just going to drop down into the riverbed around the next bend where you can see that mist in the distance. There we go, the mist on the distance on the left. We're going to head down there towards a big waterhole that's in the riverbed and see if those lions might not have gone towards that area to drink. I believe Nikki also showed you a leopard who was hanging around this area in the last couple of days. So fingers crossed, my first drive, I hope I get to show you something really cool for the morning. So I'm going to get going. Just a reminder to all of the kids out there, you can direct your questions for the first 45 minutes. It's directed to So the kids' questions are directed to kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. For the first 45 minutes, we'll be answering mainly kids' questions, but everyone else is welcome, obviously. So I think on that note, let's get going. So it's been quite a cold morning this morning, and cool, I'm glad you're all excited. I too am excited, although a little bit nervous, to be honest. But I know the reserve itself, Ngala, looks after the rangers very well. I'm sure you've been seeing some amazing sightings over the last 2 weeks, and so I hope this morning isn't any different. So just to give you a point of reference, so Kathy has come with the first question of the morning, asking if I can tell the viewers a little bit more about myself. Something I don't really like to do, talking about myself, but I'll give a brief little summary of my life, I guess. So I grew up in the town of Howick, which is in the KZN Midlands. I was actually born in the UK, born in a county called Cheshire, which is very close to Liverpool and Manchester. But my parents, both from Zimbabwe, decided that Africa is something that they missed. And so when I was about, I think, 2 or 3 years old, we moved back to South Africa. Most of my mom's and dad's family moved from Zimbabwe back down into South Africa, and so that's where we settled. I grew up in the Midlands, very small town, nice, very, very beautiful area with big open water systems and really nice big mountains close by. So we spent a lot of our time as children walking through the mountains and going and sailing and rock climbing and doing some very cool outdoor activities. My mum and dad got a very big sense of adventure in them, and they brought us along wherever we went. So we went and camped throughout southern Africa. We slept in caves with only sleeping bags and mattresses. And so from that age, I kind of grew a passion for outdoors. I've always loved animals. I think the first animal teddy bear that I ever got was a leopard, and I've still got it today. And yeah, I went to high school. When I was a small little kid, most of my focus was based on animals. I really loved them. But as I started to get a little bit older, I started to focus my attention more on sports, as most young boys do. So I played a variety of sports. I used to swim, I played rugby, I used to play cricket, wasn't very good at it, especially my batting. And then after school, I went to the UK to do a gap year. So just to go and experience, I guess, a little bit of where I came from. So I worked there for a year, and then traveled around Europe, which was really nice. I backpacked and got to see most of Europe. But I think from that point is when I started to miss the African bushveld and these big wild spaces that I was so accustomed to. So when I came back, I took a second gap year, and that was at the University of Pretoria. So I started off with the BSc on physiology, genetics and psychology. And studying was all right, but I didn't enjoy it as much as I thought I would. So started to explore different options, and that's where I found andBeyond. And since then, I've been working for them for the last 5 years now. I've moved between andBeyond Pinder, which is where all of the guides start out at. I've spent 3.5 years there, and I've been here at andBeyond Ngala for the last 2. So I hope that gives you a little bit more background about me. Just to give you a point of reference. Sure. Point of reference is the river still on our right-hand side. We are heading in this direction to see if the lions were moving more in a westerly direction, which is to the left. So whilst we're looking for tracks, we're going to send you across to James.
Good morning and welcome to this part of Djuma Private Game Reserve. We're on the central northern parts and we're heading down towards the central parts to see if we can help Tishala find some wild hounds and also to see if we can find perhaps some elephants and signs of the buffalo tracks that came into the reserve last night. So there are lots of good prospects for the morning. My name is James Henry. As you saw on camera today, we've got Owen, and it has got quite chilly. And Owen is in fact wearing a beanie, aren't you, Owen? Yes. He's wearing a surfer's beanie, but he ain't going to be surfing nothing here, except this rather rickety old car. Keep sending us your questions, of course, kids' questions at wildearth.tv, and we'll do our best to answer them. Hello, Jack and Mark. I'm assuming you're two people and not one, called Jack and Mark. Jack and Mark, it's just after no, it's not, it's just after 6 o'clock in the morning, so it's probably about 10 past 6, maybe 6:15 in the morning. That's Central African time. So in some parts of Africa, it's 1 hour ahead. In Kenya, it's already 7 o'clock, for example. And I imagine in a place like Accra, it's probably 6 o'clock. Not 6 o'clock, 5 o'clock, sorry. Now, what we're doing is heading towards a waterhole. Not that I think there's necessarily going to be anything having a drink at that waterhole this time of the morning, but sometimes things like these wild dogs go and check around waterholes early morning. And what I think they would have done is got up from their night's rest literally as the first sliver of dawn arrived on the eastern horizon. They'd have been up and moving. So they tend to get going long before human beings do. Oh, we'll do those elephants, I think. There's a good start to our day. Some elephants. There are some hyenas shouting as well in the distance.
Quite serious.
It is quite serious. There's an elephant right close to us here that I didn't see. It's going to cross the road in front of us. Good morning to all of you at Somerset College in Somerset West. Gosh, you've got out of bed early to come on safari with us. Thank you very much for that. And you say the whole school's watching in celebration of Earth Day. Well done, chaps. And thank you very much for being with us, and thank you for observing the tradition that is Earth Day. And I hope that being in the virtual wilderness with us here does something to kindle and fire up your love for nature and our beautiful planet. Look at this. As we sit quietly, slowly they come to say good morning. Hi there. This is a young bull. He's probably about 10 maybe. And he's just coming to see what we want and what we're doing. Isn't that special? Good morning. Yes. It's Earth Day today. Smelling the ground. He's trying to see if he can intimidate us, or if we'll respond to a slight threat. Now he's pretending to eat. See how he's pretending to eat, he's not actually eating. He's trying to pretend to look busy while he looks at us. eating a little bit. He's just kind of tasting the bush, which he'll probably drop it out of his mouth. There we go. This is all for our benefit. He's just trying to discover what we're doing. He's curious. You can see that from the way his head is lifted up. You see? Oh, he's decided we're not so dangerous, so he's going to just maybe try and come a bit closer. He really wants to kind of engage and maybe, I don't want to use the word play, but that's basically what he's doing. But he needs to make sure that we're not dangerous first. So that's what he's doing. Come on then. Hello? And all around him, the rest of the herd is completely ignoring us. I'm not going to move. I know this isn't the best view, but I'm just going to let him see if he's going to decide to come back. He's still pretending to feed. He's not feeding properly at the moment. India, Sophie and Henry wondering about the biggest elephant we have on Djuma. I don't know. And the reason I don't know is that Djuma is a reserve that's part of a much greater system. And that greater system is the Greater Limpopo Transfrontier Park. That's 3.5 million hectares. And so these elephants are not here all the time. They come and go all the time. So we don't know who the biggest elephant is, because sometimes there'll be huge bulls here, sometimes there won't be any. Did you hear that? So you did hear it. That's them talking to each other. Now they're making sounds like that all the time. Often of a frequency too low for our ears to pick up. So if you imagine a piano, you know the lowest note on the piano. Well, imagine another length of piano keys below that. Somewhere around the lowest note there is the note that they're able to make, and our ears wouldn't be able to hear that. No, Amy, it's not true that there's a thing called an elephant graveyard. Oh, and that elephant there, I'll get to that now, Amy. See the one with the torn ear? We saw her yesterday afternoon, and I made a comment about her having a very bad jeweler, or perhaps having had some side street yahoo do her ear piercing, and she got a little upset with me, I must say. Yeah, let me just back up slightly. Amy, the elephant graveyard story, I'm not sure where it originally comes from, but, oh, here's our friend again, he's coming back. It could easily be from the Lion King, but I think the Lion King picked it up from somewhere else. So, along with any number of other biological falsehoods, the Lion King perpetuated this notion of an elephant graveyard. There is no such thing as an elephant graveyard, but the reason that we think the legend started was because you don't often find elephant bones. And so the thinking was, well, elephant bones are so enormous, why don't we find them? They must be going somewhere to die together. And the reason you don't find elephant bones is that you don't find many bones out here, and that's because bones disintegrate under the influence of heat and water. And also, elephants often tend to die very close to riverbeds because their teeth wear out, and so they need soft vegetation. And so their carcasses rot near riverbeds, and the bones disappear into softer, wetter soil, and they eventually just disintegrate. The little ones, you may have just heard that. That's a baby trying to suckle. Magical sighting here. I wonder how many of you at Somerset College have been up to the Kruger. I know that it's a long, basically you could not get further away in South Africa from where you are. Now, one of the most amusing characters you can find out here in the wilderness is the creature that Eric has just found.
So welcome back to andBeyond Ngala. As you can see, we've got a really nice big male baboon sitting on the top of the tallest tree that we have. Oh, he's moving, and look at how he's just sitting up. He's stood up. I think what he's trying to do at the moment is just catch the morning light as the sun is rising. I don't know if you'll be able to see, but the sun is just rising, so it's the heat rays are obviously increasing, and so he'll be warming up after quite a long night. He will be looking around this area. Him being one of the males of the troop will be responsible for the protection of his troop, and so I'm sure he'll be keeping a keen eye out along the riverbed, which is now to the left of us, and some nice big open clearings on the right. And if he sees that pride of lions, that means that his troop is in imminent danger. So what he'll be doing is making these really, really big, loud alarm calls, which we call barking. And it's a very, very distinct call. As soon as you hear him calling, you might find that the whole troop, which we actually haven't seen yet, they might be still within the trees. Maybe they started their day and moving down onto the ground to go and forage for the morning. But as soon as he gives that alarm call, the whole troop will react, and they'll probably all climb back up to the top of the trees and wait for the threat to pass. So we're just going to drive along the road slowly and hopefully see some of the interactions within the troop. Like James said, one of the most entertaining things you can watch is a whole troop of baboons playful with one another. The youngsters are often wrestling and chasing each other. So let's drive a little bit forward and see if we can see if the troop has started to come down for the day. All right, so we're going to see if we can see any more of the family members of this troop of baboons. And whilst we do so, Trish is actually at the Hyena Den. So let's go and see if there's any activity there.
Yes, we are chilling at the Hyena Den. As you can see, many of my friends are around. All around now, we heard a bit of whooping when we were driving a little bit further north, and then we decided let's come here and just check it out. And then we have, of course, Ribbon. You know Ribbon. She is always sunken into her den where she has a couple cubbies. And now we have these two individuals who I must say are looking very, very, very full, very round. Where are you guys going to? They're looking very fat. Now, we thought it might be Tsaka right on the left there, and then I remember thinking, Tsaka's never been that fat in his life. He's always very, very skinny. But now he is, I think, so when we've talked about ranks within hyena clans, ooh, just hyena will make when it's trying to call its cubs out. Now, even amongst the males, there can be a hierarchy. So I suspect because Tsaka has been in good favor with Ribbon lately, he's eating better. And that's why well, the entrance has yet again been plugged, but I definitely heard a small squeak of a little one. Yeah, that's uncomfortable. Get up, girl. Let me see your babies. Everyone's very excited, so am I. That's why I'm being very quiet. Come on. That's the sound again. It's a very low rumble. And we plug the hole again. Huh. Oh, I also thought that was a little cub, but it was her back leg. She's very good at creating suspense for us, isn't she? She's just great at it. So we had, we have Ribbon here, and then we had the two other hyenas, and I think they were both male. One looked like Fika, but I can't be sure, and the other one was Tsaka. Fika has very red hair and quite a round belly, but both of them look very, very round, and the one actually struggled to walk because it was carrying this huge, huge stomach between its legs. You just love doing this to us, don't you? Hello India, you're from Australia. You'd like to know if hyenas would hunt impala or they're mostly scavengers. They would definitely hunt impala. In fact, they hunt a whole bunch of things. And they're not only scavengers. They scavenge, but not as much as you may think. In fact, only about 50% to 30% of the time. All the other times, they need to actively go out and hunt. So they have a bad reputation of being scavengers, but I'll explain to you why they have that reputation. So long ago, when all the animals were evolving to get to where they are right now, there were some animals that had, or most animals wasn't able to digest bone and crush bone, but hyenas actually can crush bone because they have special teeth. And by doing that, they found a gap, a new special job that they could do out in the bush. And so it was easier for them at that time to go around and grab extra bits that the other animals couldn't eat. And that's how they got this reputation for being scavengers, because they have this special, unique talent to do that. But now, today, unlike millions of years ago, they don't only rely on scavenging. Instead, they hunt also. Hello, Alna and AJ in Somerset College. You'd like to know what is the bite force of a hyena? It is 1,100 psi, pounds per square inch. So if I can give you a comparison, a human's bite force is between 70 and 90 psi. A Nile crocodile is about 5,000 psi, and a hippo is about 1,800 psi. So amongst the predators, a hyena has got the strongest bite force, and that comes from having a very, very heavy skull, a very strong jaw, and they also have teeth that are blunt. So that means that their teeth are not sharp. So it's hard to measure. A few squeals again. So it's hard to measure, or rather PSI seems to be lower when an animal has very sharp teeth. And the blunt, strong teeth seem to, at least from the numbers, produce better pressure. Really, PSI is a measure of pressure as opposed to force, even though it is called bite force. Well, now she is looking at the lovely sunrise and having a bit of a lie down. So we're going to stick around a little longer and see if we can get a glimpse of the cubs, but we'll send you back over to James, the elephant whisperer, this morning.
Our elephants have just run away. We don't know what happened. They suddenly lifted their heads and whew, ran off into the bush. Off that way, I think. So we're going to turn round. Well, we're going to try and turn round. We could easily end up stuck. I don't know how many of you have been studying history, South African history, and a small section of South African history that been given great attention, and that is of course the Great Trek. And those trekkers used ox wagons, which were infinitely more maneuverable than this vehicle we are driving. Thank Owen for that analogy. Just drive quite quickly up here. They were standing on the side of the road feeding exactly as they were when you left us, and then suddenly, poof, they lifted their heads and ran off that way. I don't know if they smelt a big bull coming, maybe. Big musk bull. Maybe they saw a predator. Although, to run from a predator like that would seem very strange for elephants. Or, maybe another group of elephants called from further down into the bush there. But as you can see, there is not an elephant in sight now. Oh, Charlie, some days we see very little, some days we see lots and lots. So some days we can drive around here and see a couple of impala, maybe a kudu, if we're lucky. And then some days you'll see elephants and lions and leopards and buffalo and kudu and impala and bushbucks and all sorts of other things. So really it's difficult to say how many animals you'll see in a day. We're going to go around this way. It's very strange behavior that we've just seen. Our little friend the bull continued to play with us while you were gone. Hello, Kaylin, age 10, all the way in Ireland. I don't know which part of Ireland you're from. I've been to that country, believe it or not. Thank you for your kind compliment. I'm glad I make you laugh a bit. That is always a huge compliment. Here are some Impala. We'll just have a quick look at them. My favorite animal is the wild dog, I think. Love to see some wild dogs. There are Impala now running this way. That makes me think that maybe these dogs that Trishala was looking for are close by. Let me just go back a second. They're looking behind them. Now, what's interesting is that when there are wild dogs, Impala do not alarm call like they do when they see something like a leopard. And they don't do that because they know there's no point. A leopard will stop stalking them if it knows it's been seen. Wild dogs don't care, they just keep coming. And so there's no point for the Impala going at the leopard, at least at the wild dog, they just turn around and run as fast as they can. It's going to drive quite quickly, because wild dogs move with a great speed. Alright, let's go back to Eric. He's looking for lions, and I will concentrate on trying to find this pack.
So we spent a little bit more time looking for the rest of the troop of baboons, but we didn't get to see any. I think they might still be in the dense cover of the tree. By now they might be moving down into the riverbed where they'll be spending time in the sun just warming up. We are still checking along the riverbed, or at least on the northern bank of the river, and we haven't seen any tracks yet. So I think what we're going to do from now is cross back over the river. Once we start leaving this tree line on either side of the riverbanks, we start getting to these really nice big open clearings. And those clearings are vast, they're big and open, which gives lots of space and a big area for things like wildebeest and zebra and impala to see an approaching threat. And so that's an area where they might have settled for the night. And the lions will probably know that, and I think if they were looking for something to hunt, they'll probably be moving down in towards those open clearings, maybe trying to see if they will be able to sneak close enough to maybe a wildebeest or a zebra, whatever opportunity presents itself. It's now warming up a lot. So we've got a question from Sumashri, who is all the way in India. He's 11, and he was asking where we usually find lions in the morning. And I don't think there's any set in stone answer for that. Sometimes we don't find lions in the morning, and the reason being is they move around a lot throughout the night. They move to hunt or to patrol their territory, and sometimes they move such great distances that we just aren't able to keep up with them. Usually though, on a winter's morning, they also might feel the cold, so it wouldn't be uncommon to find them in big open plains like this one we're driving past, because that's where it gets the most sun. Having said that, because the dew point, or basically the mist in the air, is now settled down onto the ground, which makes the grass wet, it's sometimes a bit uncomfortable and they get extra cold if they walk through the grass. So they might be walking on open patches of ground, just like this road. And that's why we spend so much time looking for tracks of them on roads just like this. In the afternoons, though, I guess they move more into the shade to protect themselves from the sun. We are just about to cross the river, and within the next 10 or 15 minutes head towards those big open clearings that I just mentioned. And in the meantime, we're going to send you back.
We are still at the Hyena Den. And now another little cub has come along. In fact, she's not so little anymore. That looks like Soto. And I wonder if that individual that she's following is actually June. All of the critters are looking a little bit dirty today, so it's hard to see the spot pattern. And yes, they're not always dirty, even though they have a bad reputation. Digging. Quite sure this is Soto. You can see the round patch on her right side, behind the ear. Also very light. Oh, look at that, just gorgeous. Now this little one's been trying to get to the cubs and try to play with them. And Ribbon's actually shouted at it a little bit. There we go, trying to get back up. There's very interesting things going on here. That's how they mark their territory. Hello? Hey, do you remember me from when you were little? Hello, Jack and Mark. You'd like to know, well, how close am I to these hyenas? I'm about 6 meters, maybe 7 meters. I count them in steps. 1, 2, 3, 4, probably about 6 meters, at least from Soto. From June, about 10. I'm sorry, from Ribbon. I'm thinking about June. But I'm quite used to being very close to them, and they're very used to us. Obviously, we don't get out of the vehicle and things like that, because that's when they will be scared. So they kind of think of us as part of the vehicle. There we go. Going to cause some trouble. Thinking twice now that Ribbon is the matriarch. Very cool. This is a very nice show. We're going to hang around here. There's a lot of things going on, and I want to meet the rest of the clan. So I'll send you over to James with a little grebe's nest in the meantime.
We're sitting at the dam here waiting to see if maybe the dogs don't come past. But I haven't heard or seen anything. Just a shouting Egyptian goose, and now these beautiful little grebes. Or the one beautiful little grebe that is incubating 4 eggies. And we're hoping that those eggies will perhaps hatch in the next, I don't know, week or so maybe. Beautiful mist coming off the water. There's a hippopotamus, there's the Egyptian geese. The most perfect time of day. You are and you from Malaysia. Hello and welcome. Our least famous animal. I think our least famous mammal out here is probably one of the rodents. You know, we get lots of different rodent species here. So maybe one of the mice or gerbils or shrews, perhaps. They aren't rodents, but perhaps a shrew. And of the bigger ones, I guess the steenbok is probably the least famous, the one that is least asked for. No one ever goes on safari and says, I'd really like to see a lot of steenbok, please. They are tiny little antelope. Yes, I've definitely never ever had a viewer or a guest say, may we please see some steenbok today. Yeah, hippo's just deciding if we're a threat or not. or if he can just carry on his morning snooze. All right, kids, I hope you've enjoyed your special dedicated 45 minutes. For the rest of you, you may now start sending through your questions, comments, and insults to the hashtag WildEarth on Twitter, otherwise the YouTube chat stream or the Twitch chat stream will work just as well. Also, I mean, if you're still a kid, if you are a kid and you're still watching, you can send questions to those two or those three places as well. And there we've got the Egyptian gooses. Nikki at Somerset College, the little five. The little five at Djuma. Rhino beetles, yes, we can find. Antlions, yes, we can find. I'm not saying this all today, but yes, they are findable. Leopard tortoise, yes. Red-billed buffalo weaver, yes. And what have I left out? The elephant shrew. The elephant shrew is found here, maybe, but I've never seen one here. Is that true? No, I have seen one. I've seen a four-toed elephant shrew before. So yes, I have seen them all here. And there we're now on the four eggies. Of the little grebe. And as Louise, who's directing the show today, says they look like perfect little pebbles. They do. Hello Shayna, here at Somerset College as well, wondering how long the eggs stay in the nest for, is that correct? Well, the eggs stay in the nest until they're no longer eggs, really, and that, my small brain cannot remember the exact period. I think it's 3 weeks, 19 days I think is what it said. It does vary depending on how warm they keep them and what the ambient conditions are. I'll just quickly check for you. Make sure that my small brain has remembered correctly. Yes, 19 days in the case of 3 samples, 20 in the case of one, 24 in the case of another, and 28 in the case of some. So anywhere between 3 and 4 weeks for the eggs to hatch. Now I think we've been watching these guys for 3 weeks now. So we can expect them to hatch, I would say, any day from now. Which was very exciting. Alright, you're going to go back to Trishala, who's at the den of the hyenas of the Djuma clan. We're going to move on and see if we can't pick up something else. Maybe we'll be lucky with those dogs.
I am. It's been a long time since I've waited at the den of the hyenas. But we heard some whooping around here and we decided to race down and see what was happening. And then we came across Tsaka, Soto, Ruben, the occasional squealing of a cub with no sight yet. And there's one individual that I'm still trying to figure out. Is it you that I'm still trying to figure out? I think so. There's 2 very flat ones. My binoculars does not like this amount of light. I initially actually thought this might be June. Okay, yes, come closer so I can see you properly. This is my friend. Her name is not sure yet, but we will find out. Hello. I'm trying to figure out There you are. It is June. I haven't seen you in a very, very long time. Actually, just hang on. I thought I saw. You have to wait for me to say I did. Did I see what I think I saw? I think that is Comet. Maybe we'll, if anyone else has an ID. On the left side there seemed to be a comet-like mark. And this is a... Oh, look at that. Belly too round, you can't even sit properly. You are large. Now this is a really good angle to see how huge those nostrils are. Yes, flare them out for us so we can see just how big. And that assists them very much with being able to run. Now, hyenas have quite large hearts. I think their hearts constitute about 1% of their body, whereas, say, a lion or us, it's about 4.5 to 5.5%. I'm sorry, 0.45. There we go, Trishana. Or 0.55%. A hyena's heart is twice that percentage of their body. So they have a very large heart, and they also have those very large nostrils. So that both those things mean that they can go for a long time, run for a long time, very resilient, can get a good breath in, get the blood pumping through their body with less effort than most other animals out here. I think our heart is also about 0.45%. It does look like you're smiling. Aren't you smiling? Everyone's having a wonderful day out here. Hi, Baljet. You'd like to know if I'm scared of being this close to the hyenas? I'm really not. I think the first time I was probably a little nervous. I can remember the exact first time when I was very close to a hyena. It was just James and I, and he took me to the Hyena Den for the first time. It was the den there by Gallico Shortcut, I think, or was it Aubrey's? One of those dens. And Plonk, who was Corky's son, was just born, and it was the first time I'd seen a hyena so close. And Corky would come up to the vehicle and just kind of look around, and Plonk was jumping about. And this was in about October or November of 2018. And that was the first time. And I remember being quite nervous. And then I started to visit the den so often and visit them so often, and I got so used to them, and they got so used to the presence of a human, not me per se. And everyone is very happy. We're all very comfortable. And the little cubs have come to sniff my shoes before, breathe on my ankles while I'm presenting, and I feel this breath on my ankles, and these little cubs standing way too close, and then you look at them and they all kind of jump back as in horror, as if they never expected that you would notice that they're there breathing down your ankles. So I don't get nervous anymore. In fact, I enjoy it very much. I think that they're amazing creatures, absolutely amazing creatures. I look forward to spending time with them all the time. Almost my favorite. Yay, Chris Rogue, thank you so much. It's so nice to hear from you, Chris Rogue. I feel like I haven't heard from you in a while. And you confirmed that this is Comet. Yay. It's always exciting when you can still identify the boys in the clan. We seldom see them. We've been seeing Taka lately quite a bit. And I suspect that he may be the father of these cubs, especially since we saw him doing his lovely little pre-mating dance to Ribbon. It was a sighting that Steve had. I can't remember where it was. I think it was Ngala Road South-ish. And he was doing his little dance. And I think he was even seen trying to mount Ribbon. So I suspect that Saka may be the father of the cubs that I can hear and I know are in the den. Or at least a cub. I can't tell if they're two different little voices yet. But at one point we do know there were at least two. But because of the intense competition that's basically present at birth, we don't know. We don't know if there is one or two. But we'll always hope for two. Remember the last litter that Ribbon had? There were also two that were born. And then, oops, so, there we go. Hello everyone, doing a bit of a twist. There were two that were born and only the girl, Paddy, was the one that remained. But even after that, Paddy has obviously left us, for lack of a better term, because if she was still around, Ribbon would not be having another litter. Apart from that, we haven't seen that cub in a very, very, very long time. Hello, Alexander and Alexis from Singapore. It's so nice to have you on board with us. You have a very cool question, very important question. You'd like to know why are hyenas always hunched? They kind of look like they're creeping around. I know exactly what you mean. And that's because they have quite long necks. And they also have quite tall front legs. So that ends up in quite an awkward look. So imagine you have a very tall neck, very awkward shoulders like this. But what would that be good for? Let me just reposition like that. It would be good because it means that I can put my nose to the ground really easily because I've got a long neck. And hyenas have an excellent sense of smell. But in order to accommodate the fact that they need to smell, they have to have this long neck, which can sometimes make them look awkward. Now, apart from that, they have these tall shoulders, and they have a low back that slopes, and their back legs are quite short. And that kind of strange body stance means that when they run, they're more efficient and use less energy, because the front legs can kind of take most of the impact, and they're stronger, more sturdy. Oh. Just be quiet. And you'll find that the front paws are also very, very big. You've got something stuck to you, my girl. So, Alexander and Alexa, they need to be able to do what hyenas do best. Sniff out things. You know they can follow a trail that is about 3 days old, just by using their very large nose. And we spoke about how large those nostrils are earlier. It's not just to be able to breathe efficiently, but also to have many olfactory senses in that nose. Just awesome. Now I'm gonna sit around here. I'm definitely not going to leave. There seems to be a lot of little happenings, and I like that at the den. So I'll send you over to Eric at andBeyond in Ngala. He has an awesome view of the mountains.
So we crossed the river again, heading back down towards the big open areas that I mentioned. You might just be able to see them in the foreground of the shot. And we've been spending maybe the last 15-20 minutes around this area just switching off and listening to see if we can hear any sort of alarm call that might give away the position of these lions. We haven't seen any tracks yet, and the only animal that we have seen is a small group of impalas who seem to be quite relaxed. They have since moved off into the bushes to the right of the shot. So it leads me to believe that these lions might not have come this far in this direction from last night. So what I think we are going to do is check a few more open clearings. So from this point, we're going to head more back down towards the river, which is straight ahead of us now. And on the right-hand side of that is another small little pan. And if these lions have been walking around a lot throughout the night, they might be feeling quite thirsty, and that might be a place for them to go and have a drink. So that's basically where we'll start off. We have seen those impalas coming back. So now if we were looking at these impalas and wondering if they had seen lions, the first thing that they would have done is frozen. They would have directed all of their attention towards the potential threat. So in this case, the lions, they would have stopped. They would keep watching those lions. Their ears would be locked on. They'd be trying to get as much information, so smelling, hearing. And as soon as they're certain that it is a predator and it is a threat, they'll start alarm calling, just like that baboon would that we saw a little bit earlier on this morning. So that alarm call serves several different purposes. It obviously alerts every other potential prey species, impalas, wildebeest, zebra, all in the area that there's a threat around. And then it also alerts the lions that the impalas have seen the lions. So the lions, who are pretty much an ambush predator, now know that their cover's blown and they won't be able to get as close as they need to be able to hunt impala. So Marcel's asking, it looks maybe just like a leaf or something. So we have a question from Fluke's dad asking if we have any roan antelope at Ngala, and unfortunately not. No, we don't. And I think the main reason being is that roan, as well as sable, are quite water-independent species. And right up until the 1960s, there were several recordings, a lot of sable that was seen, and not so much roan in this area, but they were seen. But in the 1960s, the Djuma Private Game Reserve, which is now off to our north and west in that direction, they started building these artificial water holes. And once the artificial water holes came in, things like these impalas that we're watching outcompeted the roan and the sable. So they had to move off into slightly different areas. So within the Kruger, I think the only place that you can semi-reliably see roan, if I'm not mistaken, is further north of here. So once you start getting past Shingwetsi, all the way up into the Pafuri area, which is all the way in the northern section of the Kruger.
Last time I saw one in the Kruger was the camp close to Messina.
Okay, there we go. So Marcel's saying that the last time he saw a roan,
Sorry, that was a sable.
It was a sable, but it was close to Messina, which is maybe 60, 70 kilometers north of us. All right, so we're going to start driving now, heading back down towards the river and going towards that small little water hole. In the meantime, we're going to send you back to James, who's with some elephants.
Yes, we're with some more elephants. I'm not sure if they're the same ones that we were with earlier. They could be. We didn't come up with anything on our wild dog search. But we're very satisfied to be sitting with elephants. I'm just going to go forward because there are a few more that are a bit closer on up the road here. Here's a youngster in the road. I'm not sure if it's the same guy. I don't think it is. Oh, he's throwing some nice dust on him. That's going to make a very beautiful picture for you. Erica, there are lots of things that pose threats to elephants. I mean, human beings are obviously the things that pose the greatest threat to elephants. But out here, I suppose a lack of water would be the things that elephants have to watch out for the most. And what else? I don't think there are any major diseases that they suffer from. So really, I think the greatest threat that any elephant in this area faces is almost certainly from human beings. Ooh, look here. Here's another friend. This is just beautiful, isn't it? This is just so cool. Look at them coming to say hi. Yeah, we've been so spoiled by the elephants of late, everyone. It really is amazing how kind they've been. They're all talking to each other now. Yeah, I suppose it is true, Lisa Marie, that elephants walk on their toes. That's probably about correct. You know, their toes end pretty much in their feet. You know, they don't walk on. There's a big behind us. There's a big one behind us. They don't walk on their heels like we do. But the toe, the foot structure is very, very different from ours. But yeah, I suppose, strictly speaking, they do walk on their toes, yeah. This is amazing. Sorry, Louise, I didn't catch that. I had a game drive radio going. Just give me the question again. Elliot and Sam are wondering how an elephant trims its toenails. Well, Elliot and Sam, there are a number of elephant salons that they can go to. So some elephants are very lucky and they can afford to go to the elephant salon and they have pedicures, and then others have to do it themselves by finding a good rock to file their nails on, and then those that are of a nervous disposition bite their toenails, like we bite our nails, and that's basically how it happens. I'm obviously talking rubbish. They don't bite they don't cut their toenails at all, and often most of the elephants lose their toenails. They fall off. That was very special. Beautiful. Okay, let's go back to Trish. We'll see if we can get another view of these elephants. I can't drive down in here after them because it's a big, thick area. But we'll see if we can get a view while you go back to hyenas.
Yes, you see, there are very many animals out here in the bush that can benefit from a pedicure, or 2 or 4. And hyenas, I think, are amongst them. Definitely. So things seem to have settled down here at the den. And I think Ruben is tired. I don't think the cubs are going to come out. Also, we'll stick around for one more segment. And then we'll head off west and see what's crack-a-lacking on that side. What do you say, Ruben? You definitely deserve a spa day after the effort you've put in to producing little ones. Now, hyenas actually do often have spa days, or what I call spa days. It's days when they sit in the mud or play down at Treehouse Dam, which is just south of this den. And they seem to have fun there. I don't think there's any nail painting facilities at that particular spot, but they will obviously need to contact James for further information. Some treatments are speciality, Archer. There we go. Thank you, Davi. I think she could also do with some of that, what do you call it? You get that like sandpaper for the underneath of your foot. I don't know what it's called. She could do with some of that too. Hello, Alex and Alexis again. You'd like to know why there's so many flies around the hyena? Well, believe it or not, there are very few flies around her today. I've seen it much worse. Much worse. And usually, it's because... No, how do I say this nicely? Hyenas are not very pleasant smelling. But I don't think they smell very, very awful. But they're not pleasant. And flies tend to like leftovers. So why don't hyenas smell very nice? So that's because they have blood and other entrails, leftovers that can cling onto their skin or onto their fur, and that basically starts to rot on them if they don't clean it up. And they don't mind that too much because they don't mind rotting meat. But flies do like that very much. Another reason flies will hang about is because if you can see on Ribbon's left ear there, looking up, she keeps flicking it. She's got a few cuts in it, and those cuts have blood and bits of scab, and flies like that too. So it's a wonderful combination of all the things that flies love. A bit of leftovers, a bit of rot, and a bit of blood. Doesn't that sound wonderful? Well, to a fly, it is wonderful. We all have to have our little job, and for some flies, that is their job. We must be respectful of their job. Even lions, there's lots of flies that hang around lions. Basically animals that are predators because they have bits of dead animal on them. And most of them are not known for being particularly clean. Especially not our hyena friends. I think of the predators around. I would say that leopards are probably, for me, the cleanest and nicest smelling, as in they don't smell bad. lions can really smell. In fact, in my opinion, lions smell worse than hyenas do. Hello JP from Pretoria, you're representing us. You are asking, well, just how bad do they smell, these guys? These hyenas that I've been speaking so badly about. Not that bad, really. In fact, when we drove in, the smell was quite strong. There's sort of a combination of scat and death. I'm not sure if the scat smells of death or there's death around plus scat. Whatever it is, it's a rough combination to be around. And it did smell pretty bad. But I also think that maybe it was an individual, because now I can't smell that stench. But then I also wonder if I got used to the smell. But I think, JP, that lions smell worse than hyenas, to me. That might also be my bias for them, because I quite like them very much. Sometimes they can look very clean and fluffy, I must say. It's on occasion. Cool. Alright, well, I'm going to head away from the den because they are wild dogs on quarantine. I always know they like a quarantine. Bye-bye, Ribbon. Everyone says thank you very much. Thank you very much indeed. Cool. Thank you, Louise. Louise is so lovely. So yesterday we found
Right, we've got some good news. Sorry about that technical glitch. It would seem that the wild dogs have been spotted on our dam cam. We did have another herd of elephants there, but we've seen elephants today, and so we're going to try and make it down there. Now, it's going to take me about 5 minutes, I think, to get there, because the roads are, in this particular area, crisscross and are a little bit bumpy, and Trishala's going to try and come up from where I think she is. Right, and so you can now apparently actually see them at the dam. So I'm racing down there as fast as I can, which is not very fast, I'm afraid, at this stage. But you've hopefully now got a view of the wild dogs. And they're covered in blood, so they've had a successful morning, and I'm pretty sure our interpretation of that Impala behavior earlier on was bang on. They had obviously been chasing. Some Impala were very nervous, because when we came to that area, the Impala had crossing over here. Amazingly mobile car. Right, now we get a bit of speed. They're all in the clearing now, which is great news. So, any luck, we'll be there in about 3 minutes. Unless we're hit with another elephant roadblock, of course. Now they're mobile, probably towards where Trishala's going to catch up with them, which is good. So this is the best opportunity we've had to see the cubs in a long time. The hyena cubs, I mean. As doggies always do pitch up at the most inconvenient times. Yep. Sorry, what was that, Lou? You've lost them. Okay, so you can still see them. Our Zoomy, who's operating, I don't know which Zoomy's operating this morning, is doing a superb job there of keeping up with the hounds. We struggle to do it in a vehicle. She's managing to do it, she or he is managing to do it from probably somewhere thousands and thousands of miles away. running into the bush. Which direction, Lou? They're not far now. 1 minute out. Alright, they run into Trish, did you say? Okay, she's cutting to Trish. Let's go to Trish.
Alright, so we're at quarantine at the top of where the dogs were moving towards. So hopefully they should be actually coming out in front here if the dam cam could see them just now. Okay, doggies. Okay. There's that open spot. So I heard that they're covered in blood, so they've obviously hunted this morning. Just amazing. That type of thing, I spoke to you about it yesterday when we had them, can happen in seconds. Okay, I'm going to tuck in here. Okay, where are you? Okay. Oh, let's do this so I can... Okay. I'm going to go to this clearing bit. Okay. I see James. He is pointing. These dogs move so quickly. Okay. Thank you, Lou. It's like we're playing a game with Lou saying, there's a marula on your right, they're moving from there. And then it's like she's a controller. Okay, I'm actually, Louis, gonna go up. I'm gonna go straight up to quarantine because that's the only place they're gonna go to. Okay, I'm gonna go straight up to quarantine. Okay, cool. I'm gonna send you over to James because he's waiting at an excellent spot, and I'm gonna go wait at another.
Yes, we are now in the area. We've come across to a road basically one on from where Trish is, the direction we thought they were heading. The problem with these dogs is, of course, that they change direction every 3.5 seconds. So Trish came up here and around, and they could easily have just cut around. So let's go up onto the clearings here. They do like clearings generally. I think I've been smelling them the whole morning, but maybe I haven't. Yes, I can smell them. I can definitely smell them now. Now, of course, as I hit reverse, all I can smell is diesel, acrid diesel. Quickly stick our heads down here and look down the road and see if they maybe went here. They move so fast. I'm going to turn here because I don't think they've come as far. Amy, you're 9 years old and wondering what sort of noise they make. They make various twittering sounds while they're feeding, so they sound actually like a bunch of crazed birds while they're feeding. They can make a sort of alarm bark, so they'll go, oh, if they are alarmed, if they see someone and they get a fright, or if they see a lion or something like that, they'll go, oh. Only once. They don't bark like a normal dog does. And then they make like a whooping song. When they are trying to find each other, they go, whoo, 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 whoo. And it's amazing to hear and wonderful to see them do it, although it can sound very sad if they don't find their pack mates immediately. Right, Trishala's up here now, so let's go back around this way. All right, Eric's got some waterbuck. Let's go across to him.
You can see we've finally reached the waterhole that we were hoping to come and have a look for these lions, and we found some waterbuck showing us their business end. It's just such a beautiful still morning. I mean, that reflection is so crystal clear. You can almost see every detail of the waterbuck in the reflection. That one on the right-hand side there with those really long, big horns pointed forward, quite unique. That is a male. If you look on the left, there's a female that's got her head down, but as soon as she picks her head up, you might see that she doesn't have any horns. One of the major differences. And there are a few more that are feeding around the area. We've actually just missed them. They were coming down to have a drink. Looks like the majority of the herd is moving further away from the waterhole. And I believe around a waterhole like this in Djuma, you saw some wild dogs. One of the defense mechanisms that these waterbuck have adapted to is basically running into the water to protect themselves from predators. And if wild dogs are in the area, I mean, it's a very, very large animal for a wild dog to hunt. But with a youngster, they might feel a little bit more vulnerable. You might find that one of their first forms of defense is to run straight into the middle of the water, where they feel a lot more comfortable than the predators, especially if it's a cat. And hopefully they will eventually lose interest. I've actually seen an impala do that. So wild dogs were chasing an impala around a waterhole. They managed to single out a female, and the female ran straight into the middle of the waterhole, and the wild dogs didn't follow her, just sat and waited and waited and waited, and eventually there was this big toing and froing. So the impala would come out to the edge of the water, the wild dogs again would spark some interest and get up and try and chase the impala, and then the impala would finally run back into the water. I think we went back in the morning. It was getting dark, so we left them be, and no sign of the wild dogs and no sign of the impala, so we weren't quite sure what happened after dark. There are some beautiful birds around the waterhole here too. In front of the waterbuck, in the water swimming, are two Egyptian geese, I think. Let me just look through my binoculars. Yeah. Another Egyptian goose on the left. And then on the right-hand side, I think if we pan a little bit more, there we go. There's that brown bird. And it's got, standing on one leg, it's got its head tucked into its body, so quite difficult to make out what it is. But luckily there were a few more of its kind around a bit earlier, and it's a white-faced whistling duck. I think there are actually a few more on the right-hand side, yeah. All pretty much posing exactly the same way. Got a comment saying that Kirsten, one of the directors, it's her favorite bird, and I think it's actually my mother's favorite bird, so hopefully I've earned some brownie points this morning showing her them. There's a hippo calling as well. Cool, so I've got 3 brownie points from Kristen, and probably only half a brownie point from my mum. 3.5 points for the morning, that's not bad.
Not a bad evening.
So about a month ago, there was quite a unique little bird that we saw occasionally, and it's a very, very secretive little chap, and it hangs around the very edge of the water, and these trees that are overhanging the water was the perfect vegetation type for it, because it could sit in there, it was very camouflaged, and it could hunt. And when it wanted to, it would retract into... Cool. So we're going to send you quickly, whilst we're looking for that bird, which is a bittern, we'll send you back to Djuma, and I think they've successfully found some wild dogs.
Oh, shame. This little one got a bit of a fright, I think, from our aerial. We found them. Well, you found them on the dam cam. Thank you very, very much for helping us out here. What a joy to have got them. Trishala and I both drove past them, I think probably 3 times. Superb effort on our part. I'm just going to call this in to Michelle. Michelle, do you copy? And then I'll move so we've got a slightly better view.
Very close to Yuri's house.
Yeah, you'll see us just come down the road towards the pan. I'm just going to go backwards a little bit and let's get a better view. There we go.
Morning, Miss. We didn't follow up on the telemarketers last night, but we left them yesterday morning and they were moving south, close to Dollarite. Do you know if they crossed over? Negative. I will check that out.
Finally, we've got some wild hounds. Unfortunately, they have put their faces behind all the bushes, but at least they are here. Oh, Shirley, yes, I mentioned I could smell them. These things smell like the dampest, wettest, most puffy-smelling domestic dog you can imagine. I mean, they are wonderful creatures, but goodness gracious, they can honk. And you've got the blood on the face there. Jess, you're wondering how fast they can run, is that correct? Jess, they can probably achieve a speed of around about 60 kilometers an hour. If they really push it. And they can maintain it for quite a long time. That's their kind of real skill, is that they're able to maintain it, and it's why the Impala will not alarm call at them. They don't even bother to shout. They just run. Now these two have got very moth-eaten ears, haven't they? Yeah, lots of injuries. They're not young dogs, these two that we have in front of us. But wow, it's special to see them. It's going to go slightly back. Lioness, that's a good question. Why do we call them in if they're no guests on safari? The landowners and managers and various others around Djuma and Buffelshoek, which is the reserve to the north of us, and Torture to the east, have been doing their lockdown here with us. And so we call it in for them. Is that a bit better? But that's a very good question. And for those of you who don't know what that means, we're obviously on a commercial game reserve that's not operating commercially at the moment because of the lockdown. Ah, this is fascinating. It's fascinating, and it's just to warn you, we're right near a landowner's house, and there's a domestic dog that lives there, totally above board. Animal is in a fenced area. There's no chance of it coming into contact with these dogs. But if the domestic dog does see these wild dogs, he'll bark. And I'd be very interested to see how these wild dogs respond to that. And they don't like it, you see. They don't like the sound of their domestic cousin. And of course, one of the greatest threats to wild dogs is when they come into contact with domestic dogs. And they're not going to come into contact with this dog because it's very well fenced in. But when they get out of the reserves and into the community areas, they do come into contact with dogs. And then they are susceptible hugely to domestic dog diseases like rabies and canine distemper. So you can hear the dog barking now. There's absolutely no harm or danger going on here. It is interesting to watch their response though. Oh, it's so special to see these things. We all love them so much. And I'm pretty sure that has a huge amount to do with the fact that human beings have enjoyed such a close relationship with wolves and dogs for, I think it's around 10,000 years now. Yeah, they're all looking towards the little bull terrier, who's obviously spotted them. Oh, khakis to crater, this fence would definitely stop a wild dog getting in. It's, well, first of all, it's got about 12 strands, but it's also got a very thick chicken mesh that goes around the bottom side of it, and that'll go under the ground so that things can't burrow underneath it. It'll definitely stop wild dogs. Wild dogs wouldn't want to go in there. So wild dogs often try to get out of fences. They'd never try and go into a fence like that, or towards a human settlement like that. I mean, they'll smell human. They wouldn't want to have contact with a domestic dog. You can see them moving away now. So they're not vaguely interested in going anywhere near the domestic situation. Shall I just shift you forward there? Yes, Anthony, pretty good guess, I think, as to why their ears are so rounded. Their ears are so rounded because they use them extensively when they're hunting. It's how they hear when a kill's been made and how they find each other when they lose each other during a hunt. So they make that amazing call, that whoo, 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 whoo call. And I know you can hear the dogs barking, or the dog barking, but don't worry about it. There's no danger to either the domestic dog or the wild dogs. And they'll just move off now quietly. And we shall follow with great haste and enthusiasm, shall we not, Owen? Isabella, I'm afraid I can't really answer that question particularly effectively. I don't know what Canine Distemper does. Oh, and I can smell them now. I don't know anything about Canine Distemper other than the fact that it's a disease that affects domestic dogs and therefore wild dogs as well. So I apologize for my lack of knowledge on that. I'll do my best to do some studying. Apparently it's a parvovirus, is it? Is it a virus? And then just sharing his impressions of it as well. Just going to try and get around them so we can get a nice view of them perhaps coming towards us. Now they'll settle eventually for the day, and it'll be really nice if we can get them settled close by to camp and have them for the whole afternoon. Just trying to get through here without creating some kind of a smash. There they are. Oh man, just impossible. Okay, let's move. I think we're going to lose them because I think they're going to go into that thicket down there. Alright, let's pop across to Eric, who has found himself now at a waterhole.
So we are still here at this waterhole. It's heating up really nicely now, so we were hoping that we'll see a little bit more activity around the waterholes. In terms of mammals, not so much luck, and except for those hippos that have been there since the waterhole basically began. And we were scanning around looking for that little bittern, or it's actually a dwarf bittern, but no luck. And I think there's a number of reasons for it. Number one, it's a migratory species, which means that it's probably started moving north. It's an intra-African migrant, so it will move from here and it basically follow summer as we go further north and north. And then the vegetation is starting to dry up around the base of the trees, so not too many places for it to hide. It's actually if you're a bird, it's quite a sad time of year because you say goodbye to all of these migrants. And just to show you quickly, this is what the dwarf bittern looks like. So it's got a very beautiful slatey grey blue back and then these streaks along the side of it. So it's a very pretty bird to see and one that's not so common. So it's a really special one to find. But like I said, this over here on the side, being orange means that it's cool. I believe you've been seeing one at Djuma. We've seen two here at Ngala, but that orange around the map means that it's a inter-African migrant. So probably the sightings of them are going to go few and few between. So I think we're going to leave this waterhole for now. I mean, we've spent a good half an hour here. Those hippos are quite far in the distance, so we haven't really seen them too well. And our tracking teams this morning have found tracks of the lions. They seem to have gone in the complete opposite direction than I first thought. So they went more east. And so we're going to probably slowly start heading back into the eastern part of the reserve. So behind us is a really nice big open clearing again that we'll go and check and hope for any sign of some large mammal this morning. You guys have been spoilt in Djuma, so I'm very happy to just take it easy and hopefully show you some of the smaller things. So James and David, ages 8 and 5 from Australia, has asked that when a hippo goes underwater, does it close its nose? And yeah, it does. It's got these specialized flaps that it will close. Every single time you see it lifting up its head above the water, you'll see it exhale and shoot these like steam or water vapors, I guess, away from its nostrils just so it can breathe again. We'll see if it will happen again. And if you get a very good close view of them, you can kind of see the nostrils moving sometimes. Pretty specially adapted to be living most of its life in water. I mean, if you look at the way that everything's positioned on its head, from the nose to the eyes to the ears, it's all in one same line. So they don't necessarily need to lift up their whole bodies. They can literally just poke the top of their heads out, take a deep breath. If it's hot and the water's nice and cold, they can sink straight back down into the water. Yeah, so I think, like I say, we're going to start heading down towards some more big open clearings, and in that area, because it is so open with a little bit of water, we do tend to see quite nice big herds of zebra and sometimes giraffe, impala, wildebeest. And so we'll go into that area whilst our tracking teams are out looking for those lions, and hopefully we'll find the lions, if not this morning, then maybe this afternoon. So I'm going to keep driving. So Emily has asked a question whether I've encountered an animal on a kill whilst on foot. And I feel that I'm privileged enough to say yes, I have, but only on a number of occasions, and it's always been lions. So when we are tracking lions and they cross over a road, what we tend to do is circle that area and make sure the tracks don't cross out. If they don't cross out, then instead of driving through the bushes, it causes quite a lot of damage if we don't know where we're going and we're just crunching trees for no reason. Myself and my tracker will jump off on foot and we'll try and follow the tracks. And on the odd occasion, if you're lucky enough, you get to find the lions without them noticing you. And the way that we do that, especially if the lion's on a kill, is by listening out. They make a lot of noise when they're fighting over the scraps. So they growl, they snarl, they hit each other, and that's something that we can often hear quite a lot. One of the coolest experiences I think I've seen is when I was working at andBeyond Pinder. And we were basically walking up to this pride of lions, and they were on one side of the waterhole. We were on the other. We were in some really good cover, so they didn't see us. And as we were sitting and watching them, we saw warthogs approaching. And the warthogs didn't see the lions. On I think the fourth warthog that came over the waterhole and started drinking, one of the lionesses couldn't resist anymore, and she got up and she chased this warthog and literally killed it, maybe within about 100 meters of us. So yeah, I've seen a number of lions on kills, and I've seen one lion making a kill whilst I've been on foot, which I think is very, very lucky. All right, so we will be driving towards those open areas I keep mentioning, which is now straight along this road. We're going to send you back to Trish, who's also now moving into a slightly different area away from those wild dogs.
I am, or at least I was until I came across this roadblock. This is the doing of some elephants. I'm going to try and get around. A little bit bushy. Unfortunately, I do not have the strength to move an entire silver cluster leaf tree, believe it or not. I know I look like I'm very muscular, but I do have the finesse required to drive around it. Okay, so we are heading west towards Zoe's Road. I'm actually coming down Aubrey's at the moment, and I'm going to end up at Viotella Access. And then we're going to look around for the dogs in that area. Now, that particular area may be a little bit difficult to drive through, especially if it's obviously between the roads and not. Let's just look at Viotella Access. Sometimes they like this area. Yeah, so it's not easy if it's between the roads, the blocks between the roads. That's why I'm going to go in onto Zoe's and see if we can be a little lucky. Hi, Jason. I have... Okay, I can't follow up on these now, but I have leopard tracks heading up for your tele-access. They look pretty fresh. Okay, we gotta do round. Hi, Jason. Sorry. Which smells worse, you ask? Wild dogs or hyenas? Wild dogs don't smell bad. They smell to me... what did I describe it as before, which was really strange? A little bit like a barn, mixed with musk-scented something. It's more like musk-scented toilet deodorizer, not the human kind. That's what they smell like, to me at least. So they don't actually smell very bad. Sorry, I'm thinking. Hyenas can smell pretty much like scat a lot of the time. But then I also really like hyenas. But if we're going purely on scent, hyenas do smell worse than wild dogs. What do you say, people? Power lions? No. I'm going to show you something very cool very quickly, though. There's a track of a centipede. Can you check it out, Darby? How cool is that? Very cool. Awesome, right? You can actually see almost the shape of the body and the way it's... Yeah, I don't think I've seen one either. I've seen millipedes quite a lot. Millipede tracks. I've never seen a centipede. That's very cool. Or rather, I haven't seen it often. Okay. We're now in Zoe's. We have to move her pretty fast, looking for dogs, and I'm sure James is also trying to look for them, so let's go over to him and see where he is.
We're circling the block that they ran into. I'm afraid I got stuck down in the bottom of a ditch that we just couldn't cross. The dogs crossed, and they were basically on the clearings down through that next drainage line, and they came this way, but I just couldn't follow them. There's some Impala there. And it was obvious when we saw that first group of Impala this morning that they had seen something nasty. These guys are just alert because of us. They see dogs, they run hell for leather. Do not hang around to ask questions. Yeah, Gordon, the clearings outside, that's why you'll always hear me refer to the clearings outside camp. And as far as possible, I'll avoid using the term quarantine. Quarantine clearings were a place where they kept introduced game. So they kept introduced game there in a boma, and they'd quarantine that introduced game for, 2 or 3 weeks at a time. And then they'd release it out onto the reserve. So I don't know, this is a long time ago. I don't know what animals they were releasing. They're all obviously indigenous species, so it's not like they were releasing exotic things here. And the clearings to the landowners and to everybody around here just became known as quarantine clearings. And it's the most unromantic name for a beautiful part of this reserve. And it makes it sound like a hospital as opposed to this gorgeous sort of East African style parkland that's developed. So that's why it's called quarantine clearings, and that's why you'll hear me refer to the clearings outside camp. And unfortunately, there's a male leopard who spent a lot of time there who has subsequently been named quarantine male leopard. I mean, yeah, I can't claim to be a great namer of animals, but really, quarantine for a leopard seems a bit rough. All right, let's go to Eric. He's got a bird of prey at Ngala, and I'm going to carry on down this road. I will see if I can find the dogs, and if I can, I'll let you know.
So we were driving towards those open clearings, and we managed to find this beautiful eagle sitting at the top of the tree. And luckily for us, it hasn't flown away, so we get to watch it, which is sometimes a bit uncommon. Usually these big birds of prey are a little bit nervous to the vehicles and they'll fly away. So we have been watching for about maybe 5 minutes or so. And if we have a very close look at it, and look at the overall color, very brown. It's getting some wind at the top of its head, so it is creating a little bit more white at the back of the head. And then if you go over to the sides of the head in comparison to the body, it's relatively big. And so all of these signs point in the direction of a brown snake eagle. And it is facing with its head directly behind the sun, but as soon as it turns and looks towards us, see if you can catch the color of the eye. It's got this beautiful, really, really iridescent yellow eye. And I think what this eagle might be doing for the morning is just sitting on the top of the tree like that, and it'll be looking for any sign of movement, so any little snake or any reptile, potentially even a small mammal that it might find an opportunity to hunt. And if it does so, it will jump off of that perch of it and go down and catch it. Once it starts warming up and the thermals start to rise, the hot air starts rising, it will climb a lot higher up. So James is asking if I actively keep a bird list. And yes, I do. For Southern Africa, I do. I have traveled into Uganda, and I saw a few birds there, but I didn't necessarily keep a list. Also went into Tanzania, actually. So, yeah, I think keeping a list is quite nice. It's not my priority. I think for me, what birding brings is just another element to the safari. So it's just increases things to talk about, I guess. And once people start understanding and recognizing that birds are quite interesting, you get to show them a lot more other than just chasing the larger mammals. So I keep a bird list. I mean, I'm not the best birder, but I do really enjoy traveling into new areas, and traveling into new areas creates different habitats for you to start looking for birds. And so, yeah, it looks like there's actually a brown-hooded parrot that's flying around the tree. I don't know if you get to see that. I thought it might start bombing and dive bombing this brown snake eagle. Oof. And the mackerel dove has also just flown past. I don't know if you got to see any of that. So apparently you can hear it calling that very high shriek. That's the parrot, and it was doing circles around the brown snake eagle. I thought it was literally going to start dive bombing it to chase it away. But it did one circle and it moved off. We haven't got a clear view of the feet, but if we were to look at the feet, we might get I don't know if we will, but basically from the thigh all the way down to the ankle is bare, so it's just this layer of hard skin and scales, and basically it's what makes it not a true eagle. So a true eagle has to have feathers all the way down to the ankles. And the reason why a snake eagle doesn't is because its main diet is reptiles, and a lot of reptiles are snakes, which carry venom. And if a snake turns around and bites that snake eagle, and those hard scales prevent the venom from, or the fangs firstly, from penetrating into the snake eagle, and then secondly it will localize the venom if any do get in, so it won't necessarily travel right throughout the body. And if a snake eagle is skilled, what it will do is it will literally just swoop down and catch the snake right behind the head and kill it by crushing its spine. And then often it will break the head off and fly with the snake in its talons. And you'll sometimes see, especially with not necessarily brown snake eagles, I've seen it more with black-chested snake eagles, where they sit in the wind and they literally sit still, and you can watch them eating from the sky. And they'll literally, with their talons, bring the snake up to their beak, break it off little piece by piece, eat it, and just the skill that it must require to sit still in the sky and hover and eat and keep your whole body still must require a lot of energy. The biggest snake I've seen, a snake eagle going after, it didn't catch it, unfortunately, but it was a snouted cobra in Botswana. We were driving along a road, leaving our campsite in the Chobe National Park, and one side of the snake was across the road before the tail came onto the other side of the road. So it must have been maybe 2.5 meters, and the snake eagle came out of the sky. We didn't even know it was there. It all of a sudden saw the size of the snake, and it literally just banked and flew away. The snake saw that eagle, and within a second it disappeared. And it seems like that snake eagle disappeared. I was actually not concentrating and watching it when it flew off. I actually don't even know what direction. Marcel, did you see it go? Oh, so it flew off behind us. Sure, so yeah, I think we'll leave that snake eagle. It was a really cool sighting. I'm glad we got to sit and watch it, and the color of the eye was really, really nice. And apparently you did get to catch a glimpse of those legs, so that's really cool. We still are trying to get to those open areas that I've been promising to get to probably for the last hour and a half. Sure. Got a very, very good question from Maya, who's in Dubai, and she's only 9 years old. And the question is, how do you tell how old a bird is? Which is a very, very interesting question, because I think right up until they reach adulthood, it might be quite easy to tell how old it is. And so you just look at the plumage. I mean, a bird is born on a nest, and it takes sometimes between 60 to 90 days for it to leave the nest, and then it takes another while for it to grow into its plumage. And so if you see it in that intermediate phase, you can guess the age. I don't think you'd be able to pinpoint exactly how old it is. I know for a battalier, for example, a battalier is a really beautiful eagle. It's got blacks and browns and greys. And when it's a juvenile, it's brown. So it's got a blue face and a brown body. And that takes 7 years for it to go from its juvenile plumage to its adult plumage. So speaking of birds, Trish has got a yellow-billed hornbill, and we'll go over to see what it's up to.
It is a yellow-billed hornbill, and we are trying to see what it's getting up to. And that's actually a great comment from Eric, because that's exactly what they're always doing, is getting up to something, whether it's looking shifty, preening, eating. They're always doing something interesting. I'm also taking this opportunity, because as you know, I'm looking for the dogs that were moving in this kind of southwesterly direction. Sorry, Lou, I didn't catch any of that. But we're taking this opportunity to just kind of listen. That's true, that's true. Louise's house, Louise's room, she's actually my neighbor. The hornbills often bang their heads against the glass door. Interesting. But one of my favorite bits, and Louise's as well, is when they bring fake food to come and entice the reflection of theirs into a fight. And they just pick up a bit of grass and they kind of dangle it and make the sounds that they would if they had a bit of food. Trying to get the reflection, aka their enemy, to come out and fight. Which I think is quite funny. Anyway, I'm taking this opportunity well, to give you guys some attention, obviously, you lovely yellow-billed hornbill, but also to listen out for alarm calls. I've moved further west, and the dogs were moving in a southwesterly direction, so I'm going to go onto via tele-access, western boundary, and then southern boundary, and see if we can get lucky. And I'm not hearing any alarm calls, though I did a little while ago, but it can be a little bit difficult because the males, the Impala males are rutting, or well, at least their testosterone levels are starting to get higher as the daylight hours get less and less. It kind of begins this production of testosterone in their body, which makes them a little bit more aggressive and territorial, and then they start alarming at each other and fighting. And if you listen closely, you can tell the difference. But if you're just kind of zooming past and looking for something, and you stop suddenly and you realize it's two boys fighting. Impala boys, not real boys, don't worry. At least not out here in the bush. Although it does happen for similar reasons in actual boys. So haven't heard too many alarm calls. Hi Doug! I'd like to know what's my favorite alarm call. Love a kudu. Love a kudu when it alarm calls. You can be 100% sure there's an animal right there. And you shout, bah! And it's deep. It's almost like it's got this force it can throw out with its voice. And by going bah, it throws out a shield of some sort. That's what it feels like, at least to me. And so I do like a kudu very much. Okay, I'm gonna go sandy patch, like I said, and then triple M, see what's happening there. But I'll send you over to James for an update on what he's gonna be up to.
I think my favorite alarm call is the reedbuck, which sounds like an admiral's whistle. It's quite clever. I've never actually heard them do it here because I've never seen a reedbuck here, but it is an interesting call. We are now on the southwestern corner of the Djuma. We will take one moment to look at the magnificence of Berkemia discolor, the brown ivory, after whom the famed but utterly invisible Djuma Pride are named. That tree in Shangaan is known as the Djuma tree. Ever faithful, the Cape turtle dove calls, and thereon in that dead tree is a lilac-breasted roller. This one, closest to us, main trunk. Got him? He's gone now. Alas. So, what we're going to do is just head up this kind of western section of Djuma. Owen and I both agree that the wild dogs were looking like they were going to settle for the day, and they've probably gone into that block and gone to sleep. So, we might be lucky this afternoon. Griffin, the most common kinds of trees that we get here are Combretum apiculatum, or the red bush willow. That is a common type of tree. Combretum calinum, the variable bush willow. And another very common one is this one here, Terminalia sericea, the silver cluster leaf. So named because its leaves are clustered and on them are slightly silvery hairs. I've yet to discover why the red bush willow is called the red bush willow, because I can't see anything red about it. Its pods aren't red. Its roots aren't red. Maybe they used to make a dye out of it, I don't know. There's a red bush willow there. Owen, straight in front of us. Shall I go a little forward?
Yeah, I'll go a touch forward.
you can just see its leaves starting to turn with the season. So I don't know why it's called a red bush willow. Anyway, while things have quietened down, I'll just give you a quick mention of the fact that I am doing a book launch at 1 o'clock with two magnificent South Africans. You can check it out on my Facebook page. They have written a book called Changing a Leopard's Spots, and it's about relationships in South Africa. It's a brilliant book, and we're doing a little launch. We can't do it obviously physically anymore because of lockdown, but we're doing it virtually. So you can check it out at 1 p.m. It's a Zoom webinar, and you can find the details on my Facebook page. Now, there's Louise, you say the fruits are red. The fruits are definitely not red. The fruits are invisible in this particular case. But they're not red. They're a kind of browny grey colour. There is nothing red about this tree. The roots, if you take them out, the elephants like the roots. They pull the roots out, and sometimes there is a slightly reddish hue on the root bark, but that's no different from any other bush willow. So, I don't know. Yeah, if you rub the bark a bit, you get a reddish colour, but you get that on lots of different kinds of trees, so I don't know why it's called a red bush willow. It's the hardest tree that we get here also. The very hardest. The hardest wood, so very good wood for making fires, but we try desperately not to collect too much of it, obviously, because it's slow growing. But there's lots of it. All right. I always like questions about vegetation, as I've said to you, because the vegetation tends not to move. All right, Trisha's also gone off to the west. Let's see how far she's got.
I have, in fact, gone to the west. James is very, very correct. But unfortunately, I haven't picked up on anything. And luckily, we did have those leopard tracks that were moving in this direction. They seem to have tapered off at some point. But I'm going to go check Triple M. Not the prettiest road, but is often a productive road. And we seem to be pretty productive while on that road. So let's go and check it out. So we've had an awesome drive. We've had some really nice hyena interaction, wild dogs. So I think a leopard would be lovely to top it off. And if you enjoy watching all of this happening, enjoy seeing our characters meeting the individuals that we get on the property, our territorial leopards, lions, our lovely hyena clan. If you enjoy all of that, please go to our support page and help us out. There should be some details at the bottom of your screen any moment now, if not already. So you can help WildEarth out so we can keep on doing this. We love bringing live and interactive safaris to you guys because it's not just about real-time animals and the experience, the kind of holistic experience of being with us when we find them, being with us when we lose them, and how it's not all just the grand shots that you may normally see on TV. We love to be able to show you the nitty-gritty, and most of all, we love to be able to interact with you so we can answer your questions directly. So please do help us out and support us. We love doing this. I'm sure you guys love watching it too. Hello Amy, you're 9 years old and you're from Somerset College. You'd like to know what is the best sighting ever this reserve has ever had. I have no idea, Amy, but I'll tell you about two sightings. One, there's a paper written on, a scientific paper written on, and it's a sighting where 8 leopards were recorded in a single sighting. In fact, it's a paper on leopard density in the Sabi Sands, and if they recorded leopards, 7 or 8 leopards in one sighting. So that must be an awesome one. And I can tell you I've had a couple good sightings myself. Hello. Whoa, whoa. Almost looked like he was going to attack me. Don't you think so, Amy? Either that or better. Hang on, let's listen. Another thing I like about Triple M is I can see the whole way down the road. In case there's somebody lying up. Obviously there's not when I want to look. Okay. So I've had a wonderful sighting with 2 leopards, Shidulu and Falamba, with a kill in the tree, a very sweet dog-like in behavior hyena sitting next to me in the vehicle, not in the vehicle, outside the vehicle, and then Shidulu's cub, Kara, coming in. That was a cool sighting. The other very interesting sighting I had was with Hasana with a kill in the tree and Inkahuma sitting underneath the tree, eyeing him out and him eyeing them out. Then I've also had Tingana, Tandi and Hasana in the same sighting. Hang on, I wonder if someone's trying to talk to me.
I was thinking of just taking a spin now and then just trying to...
With Tingana in a tree with a kill. I'll actually post a picture of that today. I still have one. Ah, Franklin, the way you were walking made me think you were a honey badger. No, it's darted into the bushes. And then Hasana was underneath the tree, throwing up a hairball, and Tandi was nearby having a poo. So it was a very interesting family dynamic. Anyway, I'm going to head down our not-so-pretty road, Triple M. Hopefully turn up something for last few minutes of the show. A couple, actually, quite a few minutes. But I'll send you over to Eric for now and get a bit of an update from him.
Got this really beautiful, sweet little bird on the very top of the tree. And if you look closely at it with that very yellow eye streak, those funny grey moustache stripes, this is a yellow-fronted canary. And again, a bird that we don't often spend too much time watching because they tend to fly away at quite a quick rate. So we're quite lucky. See, there one goes. But if Marcel pans to the left, we do have another bird, which is also quite a cool bird to see. You see it completely black all over. And a lot of people were actually just discussing it. There's 2 options that it could be. One could be a fork-tailed drongo, and the other one could be a southern black flycatcher. And I wonder if anyone would be able to tell us what it is. A few clues. You look at the tail, look at the bill, very thin bill with a black eye and none of that deep forked tail. So this is actually a southern black flycatcher that we have here. A lot of people might overlook it as a fork-tailed drongo. It is slightly more slender and less bulky than a fork-tailed drongo, and it doesn't have a hook bill. The fork-tailed drongo's got a red eye. So that's some of the the key identifying features, I guess. And I believe you've been chatting a little bit about your favorite alarm calls in the bush, and something that I've given a little bit of thought about. And for me, it's the kudu. I think there was one other guide that might have said kudu. And the reason being is that you don't often get to see or hear a kudu alarm calling. So when you do, you often think that it's bound to be something exciting. If you hear things like squirrels alarm calling or Franklin, you often try and find what it's alarm calling at, and it leads to nothing. But with the kudu, very often you will see some sort of predator. Another call that I absolutely love that we've been hearing more and more at night is the cry of a black-backed jackal. That's a very airy call. It's something it just reminds me of Botswana, which is one of my favorite places to go and visit. The African scops owl, by far my favorite bird call. So I've been asked to do an imitation of the call, which I'm going to decline. I can't even speak English properly, and now you want me to try and mimic a jackal call. Maybe ask one of our other guides. I believe Nicky's a pretty good imitator of animals, so maybe you could ask him. What's your favorite, Marcel? Sorry kids, not today. The zebra. So Marcel's favorite alarm call is the zebra, and he might be more willing to imitate it, although he's shaking his head profusely. What's that up ahead? I think it is a buffalo. Yeah, there's a buffalo up ahead. Oh, it looks like there's a whole herd crossing in front of us. Oh, there's a really small one. There's some crossing on this side of the fallen tree, but I think the majority of them are actually crossing on the other side of that fallen over tree there in a dry riverbed. So I'm actually just going to creep a little bit more forward. I was hearing a lot of branches breaking more on the left, so the majority of the herd might have already crossed. But I'm sure we'll get a good view of at least one or two individuals. Actually, hang on, there's some in the shade. They're all over here. It seems like quite a big herd. There's a really nice gap here. So Marcel, if you want to pan left. Yo. This is awesome. Here comes a little baby. Yo, a really, really big buffalo right in the front of the herd here.
How do you say buffalo are usually?
Just getting a comment from Lou saying that buffaloes begin their lives so cute and then they end up looking like this big one in front of us. Which she says is quite ugly. I think there's a beauty in a buffalo. Just the strength and the tenaciousness. Their tenaciousness when they look at you is just quite incredible. You know that they're a force to be reckoned with. Let's see if we can maybe try and figure out how many are here. And it is quite difficult because they spread out and they are in some dense thickets. But it looks like at least quite a few of them are spending time in this open patch of grass where they'll be grazing, and they'll be trying to feed on as much of it as possible before they find a nice shady spot when the day gets too hot for them to move around. See the one. Okay, so whilst we spend some time with these buffaloes, hoping that they might end up going down towards the waterhole, we are going to send you back to Trish, who's actually found a lion.
I have found a lion, but there's a reason you're starting on my face, and that is because the lion is not in a very good condition. So I'm going to ask you that if you're sensitive and this type of thing is going to bother you, do turn around. There's no blood, there's nothing like that, but she is quite emaciated and she's not looking well at all. I'm not even sure she can walk. Okay, in 3, 2, 1, we're going to show you her. I have no idea who this is. The back of her looks like she could probably not even move those back legs. And you can see her ribs as well. There's a lot of mange. I really have no idea who this lioness is. It's so difficult to even get an idea. It's also, I don't want to, when there's healthy lions, we know our distance to keep from them, and I really don't want to have to stress her out by getting any closer or to try and get in front of her to see her face. I might be able to if I go wide and around, but let's not for now. Let's just have a look at the moment. She's got very light eyes. You can actually see that's her shoulder blade sticking up there behind her neck. And it's not actually a bit of fat, but the bone. Ah, you guys are wondering what direction her tracks have come from, the south or the west. I didn't see any tracks. I just saw the lioness in the road. Remember I said to you that There we go. Maybe get a bit of a look there. Gosh, she's very, very bad condition. So what had happened, remember I told you at the top of the road, I like the road because I can see all the way down, but there's a dip. So I could only see to the dip, and then when I came out of the dip, I did the same thing with binoculars, and I looked all the way down, and I saw this animal lying on the road. And I said, oh, it looks like a lion, but you know what, with my luck, it's probably a rock and some elephant dung. But either way, I drove straight to it, so I didn't look at tracks for her or where they've come from. And I don't see any behind me, but if I do, when I move about, then of course I will let you know. She seems I've never seen a lion look like this. Hi, Sonal. You'd like to know if we'll be treating her medically? We won't. She's either this way because she has gotten some sort of disease. Maybe the mange has gotten really, really bad. Maybe she's managed to get some sort of muscle dystrophy or atrophy. Or maybe she's just starved and she hasn't been able to eat at all. Whatever it is a natural cause, really. So normally when the Sabi, so we obviously belong to the Sabi Sands. Djuma is in the Sabi Sands, so we have to abide by the Sabi Sands conservation management, and they will only intervene when there is an animal that is sick or injured due to human interference. So when I say sick, maybe the animal has been poisoned or something like that, or has been caught by a snare. So that's the reasons. I hear something. Hi, Tan Man. You'd like to know how often do lions die in the park? Probably more often than you think. We know we've lost one in Kahuma Cub. Before lion cubs are a year old, mortality rate is incredibly high, about 60%. By about 2 years old, it's much better. But only really when they're out of the pride and totally safe does that mortality rate go down a lot. But then there's a different danger, and that is fighting other coalitions in order to take over pride. But by that time they're adults, and things like starvation are not a big problem. So that is one type of death that you may encounter, that of young cubs. Hang on, let me just get Michelle. Hi, Mish. This lioness is at the junction of Triple M and Power Lines, just a little bit north of the actual junction.
Okay, copy. I'm coming out of rigs.
Okay, cool. All right. I'll explain what that means in a moment. So the other type of death that you may encounter with lions is because of some sort of disease. Whether it's white muscle disease, maybe it's mange that has become rife, maybe it's from injury. So the last big lion that I saw that was dead was the Mangeni male, and that was last year sometime. And he was just there on the side of the road. He almost looked like a taxidermy animal. Whenever I've seen taxidermy animals, I think, oh, you can see it's not alive, it's not doesn't look alike. But after seeing the dead Mangeni male, I realized that once an animal is dead, something's gone from the way that they look. They can't look alive anymore. Something's missing. Unfortunately, I think this lion is not going to make it. Some of you are wondering if maybe she's been hit by a car. No, she hasn't. There's some distinctive things you'd see if she was hit by a car. Firstly, massive organ damage, and you'd see bleeding out of all of her orifices. Secondly, you'd see tire tracks. Thirdly, we need some traffic for that to happen, and as you know, it's locked down, so there isn't much traffic at all. Also, she's on a huge clearing of a road, a very big main road, and if somebody had seen her, no ways they would have driven over her. That would never have happened. Never have happened. Not to a large animal like this. You occasionally see it with a scrub hare, and that's because of their movement. They can jump in front of cars and things like that. But that's never going to happen with a lion. She's sitting on the road because it's nice and warm. There's a nice look at her face, if any of you can recognize her. Just or second Louise, I just want to see if anyone can recognize her face. Because I don't. She almost looks very light eyes. I have no idea who this is, guys. Okay, well, Rex is actually going to come down now and he's going to have a chat to me, and I'll let you know what happens. But I'll send you over to James for a bit of an update in the meantime.
It sounds like a really sad situation, that. I wonder what's happened. We had word that the Talamati Pride, which occupies the reserve to the north of us most of the time, was coming down to the south yesterday evening, and so we're just going up to that northeastern corner, the waterhole I like to go to every day, called the Biffle's Hook, and we'll see if there isn't anything there. The elephants have had a massive party here last night. They have been absolutely everywhere, and I hope they hang around. We haven't seen any more of them, but let's hope that they're around for a couple of weeks. Be good. And for those of you wondering about Thandi, the leopardess, and her two cubs, I think they're going to check the den this morning. Yadesh, no. I can categorically tell you that there is no chance of your seeing a tiger on this show today. We are in Africa, and in Africa there are no tigers in wildlife areas. There are tigers in captivity, much the same as they are tigers in captivity in the United States and various other countries, but there are no tigers in the wild in Africa. There never have been tigers in the wild in Africa, and so there is no chance at all of you seeing a tiger on this show today. But lots of questions about tigers in the last few days. I mean, I really wish that we could expand this. Naturally occurring tigers could appear on our farm. Maybe that'll happen one day. But at the moment, we're only in Africa, and there are no tigers here in Africa. Never have been. They've been limited, yeah, very widely distributed through Asia and probably Europe at one stage. But they've
Okay. Hello everyone. We're still with this lioness. She has gotten up, so that's a good sign. But she's showing us. I've actually moved further away. She's showing us her condition. You can see the ribs and you can actually see the spine. This is very, very sad. You know, it's the same as seeing shame. When you see people in this condition, you can't help but feel sad, even if you know that they're sick or they're ill and there's nothing that can be done. Doesn't mean that it can't make you sad. I always think it's one thing to see an animal in a fight and I don't know, kind of dying because of fighting over territory or things like that. When there's slow suffering and sickness, it's always a little bit more painful. And I'd like to say that that says a lot coming from me, because I've worked in science so much that you know that this is part of life, and you know that this is, every animal has to die. Not every animal has to suffer, but we see that all the time, and we know that it is part of life. And even I am a little saddened by seeing this. Hang on, Michelle just speaking to me. Standing by. Oh, that's a transformer. Sorry, Mish, I'm all the way down at the transformer. I thought that was power lines for a moment. Okay. Alright, well, we're going to wait for Rex to come over. Maybe Rex will be able to tell us what he thinks might be wrong with this girl, and maybe he can tell us who she is. Either way, I'm going to try and get into a spot of shade for us, and we'll send you over to Eric in the meantime at andBeyond's Ngala. I'm not sure what he's getting up to.
And emaciated and hungry. Whilst we were watching this buffalo, or this herd at least, this one stuck out quite a lot. And if you look at its face, on its right eye, so on our left-hand side, if you look at that scar that runs across the face up to the forehead, that looks like a scar that quite possibly could have been caused by lions. I mean, it's very tough to tell. It looks old. There's no real open wound, but that's the type of battle that these lions and buffalo are constantly involved in. And a lot of the time, from my experience, it's actually the buffaloes that come out on top, and they've been known to kill lions quite successfully. And the reason being is there's just so many of them together in a nice big herd like this. Whereas if it's just one buffalo bull, he stands maybe less of a chance of protecting himself. But in a big herd like this, they'll all work together as much as they can to effectively drive the pride away. And if one gets lags behind and gets hooked by the horns, then that can eventually lead to injury. And we have actually managed to come right into the front of the herd now, and we're sitting in some shade. Our sound and our scent is getting blown away from them, and so they seem to be completely relaxed around us. And a lot of the herd has been spending some time a little bit further to the right of this female, feeding around a termite mound. And around that termite mound, there's lots of lush green grass that is attracting them there. So there we go, that's a nice view of it. And just as we're watching them, especially that buffalo who's got her head down in the ground, look at how tall the grass is. It goes all the way up to halfway along the buffalo's back. And I mean, it just shows you how tall the grass has gotten over these last couple of really good rains that we've had this season. And if there was a lion lying down in there, it would be very, very tricky for us to spot them. So maybe that's why I haven't been able to find you lions. That's my excuse, and I'm sticking to it. They don't seem to be moving around in in any particular direction, and I think it is just to try and feed on as much grass as possible. So Kylie's asked a question about the buffalo horns, and she's, I think, asking, if I'm not mistaken, if they serve a purpose other than fighting. And yes, they do, exactly what I was explaining now about the lions and how they will try and fend off lions. Those horns are something that are very, very sharp and hardy, and those lions will try and avoid those horns as much as possible. But otherwise, for most of the time, it's usually the males that will fight with one another. And we'll see if we can try and find a male to show you the difference. So if you have got a vivid picture of that female that we were just showing you, we'll swing across to a male if we can find one, just to show you the difference in horn structures. It's actually, once you see it, you'll pick it up straight away in every buffalo. And it just basically has got to do with the very top of the head of the buffalo, or what we call the boss. And it's just a very, very thick layer of bone that these big buffalo bulls, Marcel, there's one coming out into the open here. These big buffalo bulls will fight and clash heads with those bosses, and it just protects their brain case so they don't end up with a concussion every time they fight. So it's actually really cool. I think it's a male and a female standing side by side. So see if you can tell the difference. And you look at that big boss on the top of the head. They're not giving us the best angle. But there you go, the one on the left, look at her, or look at it. I think I've just given it away. So there's absolutely no horn there. There's even a little bit of fur from the neck down onto the forehead. This one on the right hand side, as soon as it pans forward as it's feeding on the grass, it will turn, and you'll see that really nice big boss that we keep talking about. There it is, look at that. So really, really big. It's kind of stepping out into the light really nicely. So that's the main differences, and one of the reasons why buffaloes have horns is to protect themselves other than from fighting. Yeah, giving us a really good view. The lighting is really nice on this buffalo. It's just, I think one of the most amazing feelings is to be in such a large herd of buffalo. So Mac Mirror is asking what the temperature is, and we're in the shade, so we're feeling a little bit cooler. But I think at the moment it's probably, if I had to use my body thermometer, it's probably around 21 degrees Celsius. About 75 degrees Fahrenheit. No, I'm kidding. I got whispered in my ear by the director telling me the exact temperature. I'm usually not one that's very good at temperature. I feel very cold, so I usually wrap myself up in temperatures like this. So I've just actually taken off my jersey for the first time. I don't know if you'll be able to hear all of that high-pitched chittering. Is a few different species of oxpeckers that are flying from buffalo to buffalo, and they're looking for little ticks and parasites. And there's actually, we'll see, I mean, it's quite difficult because they're not spending too much time on one particular buffalo, but we can see both species that we get here. We get the red-billed oxpecker and the yellow-billed oxpecker, and sometimes you'll get to see the two different species on exactly the same body. And we'll see if one pops up, we'll try and zoom around quickly to try and get you a view of it. But I was just saying what an amazing feeling it is to be in a big herd of buffalo like this. We managed to loop around to the front of the herd, and they're all basically walking past us, and we can literally hear them as they're walking. So just whilst we wait for those oxpeckers, we're going to send you across to James, who's with I think a shrike, another bird.
You got him still. Let me just roll forward, everyone. There is a shrike there. But as with most of these shrikes, what happens is that or any bird, as soon as they hear that they're going to be on screen, they fly away and result in a strong desire to swim. This is the white-crowned shrike. He's a beautiful bird. I was hoping you'd get to hear him call, but now there he goes. Oh, there we are. He's in that bush. Did you see him there? Oh. He's foraging there, looking for insects whose lives he will unfortunately end. I often think to myself, while we wait for him to come out, that we don't give sufficient consideration to the fact that, sweet little bird like that foraging around is, preying upon countless bits of life that it is committing to its own body at their expense. Much like a lion does with the wildebeest. Now he's there. Oh, there he's emerging now in the middle of the fork of the tree. Got him?
Got him.
Hooray! There he is, the white-crowned shrike in all his glory.
Behind some leaves again.
Straight behind some leaves, but at least we got a good look.
Here we go. Again.
Good. There was absolutely nothing at the waterhole we went to see, apart from the usual suspects. So that was the white-crowned shrike. There was also an impala through there, I think, but it's now gone away.
I've got a butterfly if you'd like.
You've got a butterfly.
Which you can ID. It's right there.
Joanne, you're asking for Steenbok now. You're the first person in history who's asked for Steenbok, and I suspect that's why you're asking for it. Where is this butterfly, Owen?
You see that?
Ah, yes, it is a diadem. A male diadem. And once we've looked at the male diadem, if you wouldn't mind casting the camera down towards the purple Vernonia flowers for Judy H., who's convinced that there are two species. Let's see if this is the same species as we had yesterday. I shall alight from the vehicle and examine it. Oh, it's so nice in the sun, I may just have a lie down while I'm here. So, Judy, I would have said that this is exactly the same as the one we had yesterday. I can't see any obvious differences. The leaves are the same thin leaves. The flowers look identical. So I think it's the same not Vernonia species that we had yesterday. That's the shrike calling. I must say there's a strong desire right now to just do this sort of thing. So I think that while you go across to Eric and see what person is going to have a small lie down.
There's a really small calf that has just come into view over there. It is tiny. For the last 5 minutes, we've been trying to find you both the red-billed and the yellow-billed oxpeckers, which we have seen. And every time we get a view on camera, they decide to move away from us. So we'll be patient and wait. In the meantime, it will be really cool if we get another view of this really small calf. And as it looks at us, look at those ears. Such huge ears at this age. Really cool to see the three of them in line. So the one on the left-hand side, you might be able to identify as a young or a female, and then on the right, a smaller one, and then the smallest one that we've seen so far is that little calf. That mother, I think it might be the mother because she's gone back to the calf, looking quite protective. So, Camden from Johannesburg, who's 8 years old, was asking if buffaloes are aggressive. And I don't think so. I think a better word to use is protective, maybe, but they're certainly not aggressive. They don't go out looking for fights. if they feel the need to defend themselves, if there's lions, if there's a potential predator that's threatening the youngster that we just saw, then they'll definitely be protective, and they've got the weight behind them to be able to defend themselves. And so I think a lot of people will say that they are aggressive because they've heard lots of stories of buffaloes attacking and how scary they are, but they're really not as scary as a lot of people make them out to be, especially when they're in big herds like this. Once they've left the herd, when they're a lot older and they're a big old buffalo bull, then they feel a little bit more vulnerable, and because they might not be able to run away as quickly, they might stand their ground more, and that's when people will associate them being more aggressive than what they are in a herd. I don't think any animals are actively aggressive to one another. They've all got a natural instinct to survive, and they'll try and do everything in their power to keep themselves alive. It seems like a lot of the herd haven't gone past the bushes that these buffaloes are moving in towards. Now a few of them have. So Nushka has asked how heavy their horns are, and I actually don't know. The males, because they are much bigger, obviously have heavier horns. The females will have lighter horns. The only time I've ever picked up a set of buffalo horns was after it's been killed by lions, and I mean, it's just basically bone that's decaying and breaking away. So, I mean, if I had to give a number, a guesstimate, it would probably be in the region of 5 to 8 kilograms potentially for a male, which is, well, for you in Joburg, so you work in kilograms. For everyone else, between 12 and 18 pounds, somewhere around there. Very interesting to see how they've all almost freaked one another out, and look how they're all running across this gap. We haven't moved, we haven't changed our behavior. It was just one buffalo that got freaked out and moved, and so that herd mentality is wanting them to be in big groups together. And so they'll run and stick in a group, because as soon as they get isolated is when they become more vulnerable. So the herd is effectively split into two groups now. There's one group that is actually still running for some reason away from us, and another group in front of us which is completely relaxed. I wonder if they might not be looking for a place to settle. I mean, with this wind, it is really nice and it is cooling everything down, but as soon as the wind stops, you can really start to feel the heat rising. But it will be interesting to note. I think one is trying or is wanting to cross. Well, now they've gone back. So we got a question from E.T. asking how buffaloes identify themselves within the families, and I think I'll just have to try and think about it, but I'm pretty sure it will be through eyesight and through smell, would be my guess. And I mean, within a big group of buffaloes, we haven't really got a good count because they're moving through such dense areas, but maybe in the region of maybe between 100 to 150, maybe touching on the 200 mark. So there'll be lots of different family groups and units that are together in this herd. And I mean, sometimes they might split off and go into their individual families, and I'm sure that's all done by smell. These buffaloes have got an incredible sense of smell. Their hearing is also phenomenal, and their eyesight is also. So all three of their major senses are very well rounded. And I'm sure it will be a combination of eyesight and smell, not so much hearing, to identify one another. So, I mean, we're coming to the end of the herd of buffalo, and like I said, it's one of the best things to just find a good spot and let the whole herd move past you. And we've maybe got a few individuals, might be another 15, 20 of them to cross past us. And just before we end the show, we're going to head across to Trish, who's, I think, left the lioness now.
I have left that lioness, and I just want to reassure all of you that management has come and had a look, and they're going to have a good look at her, see if there's any obvious reasons why she may be that way. They say that the fact that she's on her own is telling enough, and it can be very difficult for them, but they all for the lioness. But Rex and Michelle also say your guess is as good as ours as what could have happened. But just know that somebody is keeping an eye out for her, and if we have any update, we will let you know. I'm quite happy that she is in an area where lots of people can see her, and there's a nice spot of shade, so she'll be able to move into it when she's feeling a bit warm. But I think the comfort of the warm road is something she quite likes. No, Impala! I wanted to show you to them. Anyway, like Eric said, we're coming to the end of our safari this morning. It's been lovely, it really has. My hyena interaction is probably my favorite bit, and of course the wild dogs. Didn't get to see them at the end, but still awesome. And do remember, yet again, maybe this Impala will say it to you. Nope, Impala doesn't want to. But if you enjoy our safaris, please, please, please do support us. You can go to our support page. Details will be at the bottom of your screen. And then you can see lots of lovely critters like this lovely Impala. Sometimes the things are a little bit difficult, but that's just the joy of being able to do what we do. And that is that we can share the happy moments, the exciting moments, the sad moments, and we get to kind of experience the whole bush together. He's come back to reveal himself for the last couple minutes, or last minute of drive, really. So yes, so please support us. We would love to be able to continue doing what we do and be able to show you all our lovely animals. This Impala is just not playing ball with us this morning, so you'll have to end on my face. Jake, you say thank you, safari friends and family, for another... something like that. For another great safari. Well, thank you. We can't make this happen without you guys, because you ask the questions, you watch, and you keep us going. So, thank you very much. Now, none of the animals are playing ball with me, unfortunately, so you're going to have to watch my face until the end of drive. Maybe we can drive along. Let me show you. I thought I saw a mongoose jumping around. Can I find a last 20-second animal? If not, guys, you'll have to look at the sky to say good evening or good afternoon. Alright, it's the sky for you all, so thank you from all of us. We're off to breakfast. Thanks for your questions and your comments. We'll see you in the afternoon.